This took place when I was a teenager, around 18 years old to be exact, when I was a senior in high school. I'm a female, and this is by far the most terrifying thing that's ever happened in my school. I attended school in a rural area of Mississippi with around 800 people in my school, and I was definitely no popular kid. The news media was ultra-conservative, and you couldn't go beyond school grounds to hang out with friends without getting caught. The campus was swarmed with security, so you were begging to be caught if you snuck out during class. One day, during my 5th period, I was in my PE class and we were playing volleyball outside when I badly sprained my ankle. In no shape to play, my coach tells me to go sit out in the gym until the end of class. The doors to the gym is right next to the volleyball court, so it wasn't too far of a walk for me. I go inside and was met with a blast of cold air while sitting down on the bleachers with my phone. 10 minutes go by with my ankle still hurting when I look to my right and see a guy I had never seen before coming inside from the main building. He looked like a guest and seemed very casual as he walked through the doors, as if he were doing something mundane, like taking out the trash or raking leaves. With me practically out in the open, he spots me and straight up tells me that he was a parent picking up his son. His wording seemed off and displaced, as if he were trying to give me an excuse rather than an explanation. As he told me this, that's when I began to notice something a little odd. This guy looked to be in his early 20s, and it didn't help the fact that he was wearing a World of Warcraft hoodie. I knew that he couldn't have been a student, as all students were required to wear their uniform. His lies were obvious, and the whole thing just didn't make sense to me. Not wanting to pry and too tired to care, I think nothing of it, and he goes on his way back out the door and into the hall. Toward the end of my class, my coach comes inside to check up on how I'm doing, and I tell him about the person who was here. I thought nothing of it and continued on with my day until later that night. My mom had gotten a call from the school telling all parents that the school would be closed for a week. I then get a disturbing text message from my friend telling me to put on the news. I turn on my TV to my local news channel, and what I saw chilled me to the bone. One of the girls from my PE class, Jenny Pitcher, was found strangled to death in the girls' locker room. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest when they showed who was responsible for her death. It was the same person I had seen in the gym when I was sitting out. Apparently, he was her ex-boyfriend and had recently broken up with him due to his abusive behavior, and I guess killed her for leaving him. He thankfully was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. When school came back in session, most of the students were utterly terrified about what had taken place a week ago, and nobody was allowed in the locker rooms.
My biggest mistake in high school was agreeing to take an AP physics class with seniors. I was a rising sophomore at the time, so when I walked into class with kids much older than I was, my teacher sat me next to the only other person there that was close to my age. He was a freshman, and his name was Josh. Josh was one of those people who gave off weird vibes. He had a sloppily shaven head, empty eyes, and ate warm Skittles in class. He was short but mean looking, and the instant I sat down next to him, my teacher ordered us to exchange numbers, and tried to make us start talking. For some reason, I really did not want to talk to him. I wasn't trying to be an asshole, but he just scared me. Sitting next to him felt like what I can only describe as sitting next to a hungry dog while you're holding a piece of chicken. I felt like any second he would jump on me, even though he was a good 6 inches shorter than me. It really freaked me out that he had my phone number and name, even though I didn't know the kid. I had a feeling that him knowing literally anything about me was not good. Luckily, he didn't talk to me for over a week, and after some time I thought I was just being overly judgmental, and he was just a socially awkward kid. One day about 3 weeks after I started the class with him, he talked to me. He asked something like, "You're the girl that drives the F-150, right?" And reluctantly I said, "Yeah." He then told me that cars were a hobby of his, and he had seen me driving and liked my truck. Although I was caught off guard, he seemed innocent and nice, and we kind of became friends after that. He started texting me a lot after school, asking me a bit about myself, and sharing a bit about himself too. Like I said, the kid seemed innocent, but I still couldn't shake the feeling that I shouldn't be telling him anything about myself, and I should not be talking to him. The average conversation continued for a month or so until one day I came home from work. I worked at a restaurant about 20 minutes away from my house, so when I turned my phone off to drive to work, I honestly wouldn't turn it back on until I drove home, as phones were prohibited at the restaurant. One weekend I came home at 12 a.m. after doing closing shift, and he sent me several odd texts. They all consisted of "I love you," "I want to take you to homecoming," and "be my girlfriend." They all rubbed me the wrong way. He didn't seem to be asking me as much as he was demanding me to have a relationship with him that I wasn't comfortable with. I ultimately friend-zoned him, and I told him I was going to bed. His response was, "No." Just no. It freaked me out, and made me not really want to go to class on Monday, but I had no choice. I had to go. He didn't text me for the rest of the weekend, and when I sulked into class on Monday, he gave me the same hungry dog stare from day one, and I ignored him the whole class. I practically ran when the bell rang, and when I got in my car in the student parking lot, I saw him standing on the sidewalk watching me drive away. It freaked me out more than I'd like to admit, so I called one of my guy friends and asked him if I could drive him home from school, just so I'd feel safer until creepy Josh would be less creepy. He agreed and we made an arrangement there and then. A lot of people thought I was overreacting, but I just knew in my gut that I needed someone in the car with me, and this guy friend seemed like the right one. When I came home from work at 10-ish Monday night, I opened my phone and saw more texts from Josh. This time they were more predatory than the night before, as that night they were detailed on how he would like me to perform sexual acts on him. I foolishly allowed this to happen for another couple of weeks, still feeling uncomfortable in class when it finally hit the breaking point. Josh started to send me texts about how if I wouldn't love him, he had to die. At that point, I decided it was time to involve the dean, but she virtually did nothing. She basically explained that Josh was special needs and to cut him some slack, despite the predatory tone of the messages. She told me that she would talk to him about it, but not to be worried because he likely wouldn't do anything. I was infuriated, and I told my dad, who told his army of Italian brothers who all decided to keep an eye on him. The creepy messages didn't get any worse, and eventually they stopped after I blocked his number. That's when all the really creepy shit started. The cameras outside of our house kept picking up a person at night, someone very similar looking to Josh. This person kept knocking on the windows and looking in my car, so my dad called the cops, who were actually awesome and kept a lookout on my house for a while to deter the nightly visits. With the cop outside at night, the visits stopped and my work started getting calls from Josh asking when I was working. My manager ended up alerting security, who threatened him to stop calling. Then Josh decided to start frequenting the restaurant where I worked every day, and leave paper cranes on the table saying, "I love you, my name, and my new boyfriend's name, isn't good enough for you." He started following me to class, to my car, to work, even though I pretended that he wasn't there, and was still driving my 6'3" guy friend home. I refused to leave my house without a group of people, and debated skipping prom and becoming a hermit because he made me feel so unsafe anywhere. Eventually my dad decided a restraining order would be a good idea, and I did get one, granted he couldn't walk near me or contact me for 5 years. Thankfully this caused the year-long nightmare to stop. I didn't see Josh again until my senior year when I was walking down the hall with my friends, and he saw me coming, stopped in his tracks, and slowly watched me walk past him with the same hungry dog look that initially scared me the day I met him. You're probably wondering why he never got in trouble when I contacted the dean and the police. Well, where I live there's a bunch of laws that make it exponentially harder for somebody with special needs to be punished for creepy behavior, even though they're just as capable to execute their behavior than an average person. The last time I saw Josh was on graduation when I could have sworn he was in one of the front rows, waiting for me to get my diploma. Although it's possible he was there for someone else, a part of me knows he was there for me. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that this can happen to anyone. I never thought this would happen to me until it did, and it robbed me of my safety, high school experience, and peace of mind. Always trust your instincts on someone. You are not required to be nice to anyone who makes you uncomfortable. That leads me to now. I'm happy, I'm in a serious relationship with an awesome guy, and in a weird way, I'm glad I was able to learn from this whole experience.
This happened back in 2015 when I was 25, and this story still kind of messes me up a bit whenever I tell it. I worked as a janitor at the local high school during the night shift and would mainly consist of mopping the hallways and classrooms. With the high school being not as big, I would mainly be the only one working besides a few security guards posted around the school. The building I worked in was shaped like an H, so it was a hassle having to clean every classroom at each section. One night, I was doing my nightly routine of sweeping the halls while blasting my music while working when I thought I saw someone turning the corner into the bathroom. I knew that it couldn't have been security as I was the only one on duty in this building. I walk over to the bathrooms while calling out to whoever that was in an annoyed tone. The very second I walk into the bathroom, I hear what I could only describe as a laugh from one of the bathroom stalls. My heart sank into the pit of my stomach, and I ran out of there while radioing security. The nearest security guard to the building came up and went to go take a look inside only to find no one. He looked annoyed for calling him for a stupid reason, as if he thought I was pranking him or something. The next day, I submitted my 2 weeks' notice and quit my job then and there.
I'm a student assistant at my university's library, meaning I do the actual librarian's job while they scroll Facebook. It's not uncommon for my supervisors to go into the back room when it's particularly busy and just leave me and another student to handle the sudden onslaught of other 30 students. The thing about this library is that it's fully open to those who aren't affiliated with the university. I don't know why, because the town itself has 2 libraries, both of very decent size, but whatever. What I'm trying to say is that it's not uncommon to go up to the top floor and see a 50-year-old man with a huge beer gut trying to chat up college-age girls. The encounter I'm telling you about happened during a walkthrough. At the end of the night, the supervisor sent the students up all of the floors to tell the stragglers that they have to go home because we're closing soon. A lot of the assistants hate this shift because it can be pretty creepy at times. Usually 2 assistants get sent up to do the walkthrough, but this time it was only me. This night, my boss, an elderly woman, was the acting supervisor and she wanted this done by the book. That meant a detailed report of each floor over the walkie-talkie. Except all of our walkie-talkies have dead batteries because none of the supervisors ever buy new ones. So I'm walking around upstairs with a dead walkie-talkie, making sure everybody knows that we're closing soon, when I see a middle-aged man just sitting at a table, staring at his hands. I tell him that we're closing soon and he nods at me. I can smell weed on him, which wasn't uncommon. A lot of people from town like to get high in the library. I think nothing of it and I continue with my walkthrough when I suddenly realize that I can hear somebody walking behind me, like half sprinting to catch up with me. I keep walking, getting faster because I'm getting uncomfortable, and the footsteps behind me getting faster as well. I'm a naturally paranoid person and immediately assumed he was going to attack me. I decided to take the staircase down instead of the elevator, and just as I start going down, he catches up with me. I just kept moving, but I could feel him practically hovering behind me. Suddenly he blew some air at my exposed neck and laughed. I didn't look back, just kept moving. I decided not to finish my walkthrough and continued downstairs until I was at the first floor again. The entire time he was following me, and would sometimes blow air at me, or briefly try to make small talk. I could smell beer on his breath. He was so close to me that I was scared he was going to push me down the stairs. When I finally got to the first floor, he just walked away to the entrance, and I ran to the bathroom. I filed a report with my boss. He's been back since, but I've just been told to grin and bear it.